Hi guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of my podcast. It is the last day of November, so I officially snuck an episode of the podcast under the wire for it to still be considered like a fall knitting podcast. I'm just gonna jump right into it. It has been an absolutely crazy few weeks, but I did manage to finish my hanna sweater by Paula Strict. This is 100% my favorite knitted garment in my current wardrobe. I loved making this pattern. It is the softest, coziest fabric. I don't have iron skin, so I do have sensitivities to some yarns, especially mohair. And I think that this fabric composition is just absolutely cloud soft. And then the fit is pretty oversized without being massive. It's kind of like that modern Scandinavian style where you have the non-tapered sleeves. This is knit in a cable design where you have two 3x3 cables that are facing each other, and it kind of creates this little kind of a V design that runs throughout the whole pattern. And then you have slipped knit columns, which kind of look like a crochet chain down the middle as a rib. And I really like how that detail makes it look chunkier by having each stitch run 2 rows. I highly recommend this pattern. My mom has already bought the same exact combination of yarn to make it in a slightly darker beige tan color. I used 100% lamb's wool from D. Gilpin called Lalin DK, which I'll pop up on the screen, of course. And then I paired it with my favorite mohair, which is the Knit Picks mohair. The Knit Picks yarn, they used to have their mohair like almost half the price that it currently is. I think it's now like upwards of $10. But back when I got it, it was probably $4 or $5 a ball on sale. And honestly, I just think you can't beat that price for something of this quality. So yeah, I give this project a 10 out of 10. It definitely was a labor of love just because of the amount of ease. Knitting a bigger size than my normal one, I feel like I calculated the amount of time it would take for my normal size and kind of underestimated how much time it would take. But I didn't mind because the cable repeats were so meditative and easy to remember, because you really only have the same 3x3 crosses every X number of rounds, which is super easy to remember. You just have to remember to keep your cable needle with you at all times. I will say this one blocked out really well. I kind of anticipated the arms blocking because it's a drop shoulder design. So the shoulders themselves are gonna fall down, and then that's going to cause the arm to look like it's lengthening, and it is in itself going to lengthen as well. So that's all in the hanna sweater pattern. Highly recommend. I'd love to make another one day, maybe in like a rosy or baby pink. It is very warm and it's currently quite hot in my apartment, so I'm going to change out of it for the rest of the podcast episode. I just wanted to show it to you at the beginning. All right, that feels a lot better. This is just a random cotton sweater that I have in my closet. So now I'm gonna move on to talking about my works in progress. And this one, this bright pink mass, has been absolutely all-consuming because it's a test knit. I'm in the process of making a standalone vlog for this sweater, but that's not gonna be out until I'm 100% finished with it and had a chance to block it, try it on, give feedback. So here's your little teaser for the Sandro V-neck. Yippee! So you can see the beginnings of a V-neck. I'm almost done with the body. Like, I have only one more cable to do until I get to the ribbing. I love this color so much. Like, I know the last knit that I just showed you was a neutral, but I'm really not a neutrals girly. I just am so drawn to beautiful hand-dyed yarn that makes me happy. Pink is also my favorite color. I have a lot of yarn in pink that I need to knit up. But anyways, back to the pattern itself. This is a pattern by Flaminia, aka the Knitting Flam, who is, I would say, a rising star. Like, she's at the beginning of her knitting pattern designing career. She put out a pattern called the Sandro pullover, which is like a cable and rib classic Ralph Lauren style sweater, which is an O-neck, which I really loved. And I wanted to knit that up with some of my yarn. And then I saw that she was coming out with a V-neck version of it that she wanted people to test knit. I feel like it's hard to explain to non-knitters why you want to spend your time test knitting when you're not getting paid for it. I know that's a big controversy in the knitting world. Like, should you be paid to test knit? And I think with small designers, like, I've been there in the past where I've really appreciated people's help as I'm designing something. And for me, I feel like I learned so much from a test knit. I'm also going to be knitting anyways. So I don't know, I don't have an official take on that overall debate, but when I can and when I have the time, I really enjoy test knitting, especially if I am going to genuinely enjoy the end product, which I think I am with this. The yarn I'm using right here, it's all caked up and squishy. It's the Killington DK base by Miss Babs in the color Sweet Gum. I had previously knit this up into the torso of a Salty Days. Like, I could completely finish the body. So if you've been watching my podcast for a long time, this might look a little familiar to you. I don't know, I didn't vibe with that. I liked the design, I liked the color, I just wasn't feeling it, and it felt so freeing to frog it and knit this up into something that I think aligns more with my style, because I want my knitted garments to just last me my whole life and be wearable throughout my whole life, and hopefully maybe my kids' life someday, and they'll think it's cool as well if I'm lucky. Anyways, so yeah, I have taken this absolutely everywhere with me. The test knit Flem is super, super sweet. She's like, if you don't get it done, it's fine. Just like, let me know about your progress, but it's due January 1st. I want to have it done by Christmas. So my mom and I, we have a tradition where we knit the same pattern and we cast on Christmas Eve, and then we knit it for each other. So I want to have my needles clear, at least with this project, by Christmas Eve. I'm also knitting a ton of gift knits. I'm going to talk about some of those at the end of the episode so people I'm knitting things for can avoid spoilers. But I don't think it's going to take that long. I'm really excited to add the ribbing on the collar. I think having collar ribbing on a piece really elevates it. You get a better sense of the fit. It's just so much more like picture worthy. I can put a picture up on the Instagram. It doesn't look all floppy. I think the fit's going to be slightly oversized without being too drapey. And I think the yarn is like really springy and boingy, and I think it's going to lengthen because when it blocks, because I don't want it to be cropped. I just don't see the point for me of wearing a sweater that my tummy's going to be out and I'm going to be cold. So yeah, I have this whole ball, which should get me through the body, the neck ribbing, and some of the arm. And I have another whole ball, so I'm not worried about playing yarn chicken or anything, you know, knock on wood, because you never know. But that is the update on my Sandro V-neck, and hopefully soon you can see all of the progress, all of the process when I put out the vlog. So keep an eye out for that. All right, now my other whip is in this super cute bag I got in Maine. I actually want to get like a little woodland creature knitting tattooed on me somewhere, but for now I just have it on this darling bag. This one has been kind of neglected, not because I don't love it, but because I have a set of interchangeable needles, which my mom got me, thank you, like years ago, and it's the Chow interchangeable needles, and I don't have any other pairs of needles. So this project takes the same needle size as my Sandro V-neck, so I just had to take them off this pattern and put it on that one. And when I did that, I knew that that meant that this project is going to be significantly delayed. I haven't gotten out of the bag for quite a while, but that's okay. I'll get to it at a certain point. So let me show you what it looks like. Last time I was working on it, I had just joined in the round. It's kind of hard to show, but it is the Stanford pattern by the Knit Pearl Girl. So eventually there's going to be ribbing picked up here. There's going to be buttonholes, and it's going to be like a quarter zip, but with buttons, because a quarter button. I don't know what you call those. But I absolutely love the yarn, and I'm so excited for it to knit up into a whole garment. It's kind of a shame that I haven't had a chance to work on it because it's just stockinette. I don't think it'll take that long. But it is a hand-dyed with indigo yarn from a West Virginia spinnery and farm that I visited. I actually made a little vlog about that trip to West Virginia and all my hiking and knitting, which I'll link above, but it's from Quaking Maples Farm, and it's 100% lamb's wool. So it's incredibly soft. The only thing that I learned about knitting with indigo, which some people left helpful comments last time I talked about it, is the dye process. Sometimes it can get like over dyed, which is just not a mistake or anything. It's just something that happens with indigo naturally. And then it can rub on your hands as you're knitting. So this project turns me blue when I knit with it, but it doesn't like stain anything. It just kind of sits on the surface and then washes off when I do wash like the garment it gets on or my hands. But it is very funny. This is like my Smurf project because of that. So this is my first pattern by the Knit Pearl Girl. I follow her channel on YouTube. She just seems so sweet. I love her style, and she is an amazing designer. The process of this pattern has been super clear so far. I think my favorite detail is these thick raglan lines. I feel like more prominent raglan lines is something that's been kind of a trending design detail lately, like in the sweater number 33 that just dropped from My Favorite Things. It's like all about the raglan line, so I'm really appreciating that. I'm super excited to add the buttons. Let me actually grab them, 1 second. All right, I miraculously remembered where the buttons are. If I could be an ambassador for any brand, it would be Hall & Hoof Farm Store. They make the cutest friggin' buttons and stitch markers. And I went to Rhinebeck, also made a vlog, I'll put it up, this fall for the first time ever. They had their stand there, and I got these hand-carved wooden buttons, little toggle buttons for that quarter button situation. I think it pairs so nicely with this color. It's such a classic combination. And then like, it's kind of a chocolate brown that matches my hair. So I'm obsessed with these. I can't wait to add them. They're just gonna make the project, in my opinion. All right, so that's my whips. How about right now, before I get to my acquisitions, I'm just gonna talk about gift knitting real quick. So I love gift knitting. I definitely signed myself up for too much. I have like a little notes app list in my phone where I check off everything I've made. And I keep signing myself up for more things. Like I just told my cousin, hi Mila, I love you, that I would make her a sweater and hat. And I can't wait to do that. Like I literally want to start it right now, but I need to get all the other gifts done before I can do that. So the first one I actually have with me, a lot of them I've already gifted, which I will just pop pictures up. But Papi, my dad, don't watch this right now, okay? You can just skip to the next section, and I'll put a timestamp up what you can skip to. All right, I'm gonna show it now, so no spoilers. So you guys know the sailor slipper trend that just went viral all over knitting Instagram and everything? I instead made a double toffler, I don't know how to say it. It's a free pattern from Sadness Garn, and it makes these like really sturdy felted slippers that have an inner and an outer layer, and then you kind of like invert it so it's double layered, and put in the washing machine to felt it. So I got the idea from the Norwegian knitter who's currently making like a bajillion million pairs of these. I don't know how she's doing this, because making these in the largest size for a pair of men's feet, aka my dad, took me like at least a week, maybe a week and a half. It was very worth it though. I also loved, like, you can't see the inside, but since the inside is folded, I was able to use scrap yarn at this point, because it's just not gonna show. I used some Lopi yarn that I picked up in Iceland when I was 15, so 9 years ago now, which is crazy that it's been in my stash that long. But the one thing I didn't know it was going to do, and you can probably see, it literally looks like it has been rolled in dog hair. And I think that's because Icelandic wool, it is, I think what you call a double coat, that might not be the right word, but basically it has all of these guard hairs that help the sheep protect itself from the harsh Icelandic weather. So it showed up in the fabric after the rest of the hairs shrinked. I guess these didn't felt the same. And I can't stand how they look. I think they look so nasty now, which is breaking my heart. So what I'm going to do is go in with tweezers and pick out every single one of these guard hairs and then vacuum them up. Or I'm going to borrow my boyfriend's like beard shaver, forget what you call those, and go in and shave it because it is annoying me, which is breaking my heart. So I love this pattern. It's free, it's easy, it's simple, it's not overcomplicated. I like how they look in general. They felt it up great, but I would not do it with Lopi unless you are an Icelandic goddess who knows how to not make it do this. So that's all. I will update you or maybe post a picture after I've de-haired them and it's gifted to my dad for Christmas because I'm trying not to spoil anything for him. I also made another pair of these in candy cane pink stripes, so a hot pink and a baby pink. I'll put a picture up. I gave them to my boyfriend's aunt this weekend who hosted us at her house, and it's just the sweetest. So I wanted to make something for her. That turned out beautiful, no notes. I used the Petite Wool by Wool & Beyond, which is a softer single ply bulky. I tried to mimic the sailor slipper look with those thick stripes. Looks super cute, they're super soft, they're cozy. She wore them all weekend, hence why I didn't get to put them in the podcast and have them here to show you. To run through the other gifts I made my boyfriend's dad a birthday hat using the Jason's cashmere hat pattern by Sweet Fiber, which is free. That's a favorite gift knitting hat pattern, super easy. It's really nice because it has cables, but it incorporates the fact that there are cables in the decreases. He wanted that hat super long, so it has like a little elf hat moment on top of his head. So what I did is I made the brim super long. I just extended it by like maybe an inch. And then I made the spacing between the cables longer. So I think instead of every 6 rows or something, I did across every 10 rows. Then finally, I made my boyfriend a hat, which I wish I had here to show you because that was a labor of love. I made it in some yarn I got from also Quaking Naples Farm in West Virginia. It is a hand spun brown yarn, and I made it for a college football game that we went to last weekend for his college, which is called Lehigh, and their color's brown. So I wanted to make him like a brown beanie. I used the Oslo hat pattern by Petite Knit, which honestly, for a paid hat pattern, I was not impressed by. Sorry, Petite Knit, I love you. But the decreases just looked weird. I think the decreases happened too fast and then the top looked pointy in relation to that, I think it's called like a brioche rib or something. So I wasn't the happiest with the hat, but it did turn out cute. He loves it and it's molded to his head. So then I went back into my embroidery era and I took a piece of woven wool and embroidered the Lehigh logo on it, which I'll put a picture up of. Then to make sure the backing with all the knots from the embroidery didn't come undone or look weird, I ironed it onto interfacing for sewing. And that also kept the edges of the woven fabric from fraying. And then I sewed that onto the brim. So that was like making 2 projects in one, because then I had to make the embroidery after making the hat. But I love how it looks, and my boyfriend is so knit worthy. He takes really good care of everything I make him, and he's already worn it and showed it off at the game we went to, and then just on the daily since then. I think that's all the knitting gift knits that I've made recently. Christmas is coming up, so I definitely will have more. If you are wondering what to make your loved ones for the holidays, I have a list of a dozen last minute Christmas gift knits, which I made a video for, and I'll pop the link up above. And it's all projects that take anywhere between an hour to a weekend, depending on how much time you have. So now I'm going to talk about my most recent acquisition. This bag is currently in quarantine, so I'm gonna take one skein out, but I'm worried about any new yarn, especially secondhand yarn coming into my stash, because my stash is my pride and joy, and I am scared of moths. But anyways, my mom, who is also a knitter, has a friend who is getting rid of some yarn, and she let me look through those gifts. And I was with my family this weekend, including my cousins, and my cousin Mila I don't know, I really like her style. It's very artistic, it's very kind of abstract, very Pinterest girl. So she definitely dresses better than me. So I wanted her to pick a pattern that she really liked and fit in with her style. And she picked the Frankie sweater by Vera Grazia, who is also a YouTuber, and I love her content. But it's kind of like an off-the-shoulder, shruggy, oversized look. My cousin Mila, she lives in LA, so she doesn't need anything that's like super practical to keep her toasty, because she would just cook in that, because it gets what, like 70 degrees at the coldest. But she picked out this from the gifted yarn called Al Pacino from Shulana, which I believe is a vintage yarn. It's a mix of sheep wool, alpaca, and nylon, and it's super soft. It kind of has the consistency of a blown yarn, but I think it's just a single ply that's kind of loosely spun. It's in this beautiful maroon color, and I have more than enough to make the whole sweater. The only thing that I noticed is there's definitely two different dye lots in this batch of yarn. So you can see this one's more of a wine or a plum purple, while this one's more of a wine red burgundy. So I'm hoping that I have enough of one of those colors to make the whole sweater, but if I don't, I'll either switch each row and do like one row of one color, one row of the other color, or I'll do the part that's the ribbing for the off the shoulders and the cuffs in one color and do the rest in the other color. Anyways, I think that's going to be my first cast on after Christmas, because I can get it to her at any time. And then she chose these two yarns. I love free yarn for gift knits, because then it's like all it used was 20 hours of my time, and that's okay. This one's Cascade 220 in this kind of matcha / split pea green. And then this one, this one's seen better days. It's Patton's Classic Wool, so 100% wool as well, in a cream color, and she wanted a striped beanie. I think I'm gonna use the classic ribbed beanie by Pearl Soho, which I've made before a bunch of times. I'll pop up a picture and do it in stripes. And it's a free pattern, which I love. So this is going to get quarantined before going into my stash. And I've done a lot of reading about how to safely introduce secondhand yarns to my stash. So I'm just going to give you a little recap of how I do it, but I would recommend doing your own research as well. What I do first is I freeze it for as long as I want, usually at least 2 days. And then I pop it in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not hot enough to burn the yarn or to set the paper on fire or anything. And I bake it on a baking sheet for 1 hour. And basically setting it in the fridge for that time will kill any adult moths in there, which I haven't found any. I think I would see them. But if there are moth larvae in there, it can just cause them to hibernate. So then you need to take them straight from the freezer into the 200 degrees Fahrenheit to shock them and kill them. And after I've done that, both freezing and popping them into the hot oven for an hour, I'm like, okay, I've done everything I can. If I do introduce moths to my stash, it will be a tragedy, but I know that I did all that I can. So I'm gonna do that today, and then I can get started on that sweater. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. It's been a weird month and a half, 2 months, because there was the government shutdown, and then there were the holidays and I was running around, but I feel very creatively invigorated right now, and there's a lot of things that I want to create, including some videos. Like, I want to do a winter knitting plans pattern roundup. I want to do a little like my 5 to 9 a week of knitting in my life video, and then I want to do an everything I knit this year video. So exciting things are coming up. If you don't already, you can subscribe to my channel below to follow along as I do make those new videos and finish these projects. I hope you all have a great holidays, and thank you for joining me today. Bye.